Hello. So let us discuss the executive of union and state. The executive of union consists of president and vice president, uh, president and vice president, council of ministers, attorney general of India. Whereas the executive of state consists of governor, council of minister, and advocate general. This is attorney general, it's advocate general of state. Okay, this provision is given in part 5 of our constitution, and this is given in part 6 chapter 1 of our constitution. Okay, now the president of India. Article 52 says that there shall be a president of India, and article 53 says that the executive power of union is vested in the president, who shall exercise such power either directly or with the help of officers subordinate to the president. And this article says that the executive head of the union is a president. However, when we read this article with 74, we get to know that president is just the nominal head of the union executive. So you are clear with 52 and 53. Now when I am checking article 54 and 55, I get the provisions of who are the electors of the president and how are they elected. So who are the electors of the president? So the article 54 says that the president is elected indirectly by an electoral college consisting of MPs, elected MPs of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So there are 543 MPs in Lok Sabha and 233 in Rajya Sabha, and elected MLAs of state legislative assemblies and 3 union territories. 3 union territories consisting of Delhi, Jammu and Kashmir and Puducherry. Jammu and Kashmir started participating in the election of the president post 2019 as a union territory. Post pre 2019 it used to participate as a state, and Puducherry started participating in the election of the president as from 70th Constitutional Amendment Act 1992. 70th Constitutional Amendment 1992, and nominated members of the parliament or state legislature, they do not participate. The 6 legislative councils, they are nominated, so they do not participate. However, all over India there are only 6 legislative councils, which are in Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Maharashtra and Karnataka. So only these 6 states have legislative councils, and they do not participate in the election of the president. Okay, you are clear with election of who are the electors of the president. Now let us look into how are they elected. How are they elected? The manner of the election of the president. So this 54 says that for the purpose of securing uniformity among the state, as well as parity between the states as a whole and the union. What is uniformity? It talks about there must be equality in the election from state 1 to state 2. Parity, it says that all the states together, there equality between all the states together and the center. So for the purpose of securing uniformity among the states as well as parity between the states as a whole and the union, the vote value of MPs and MLAs shall be determined in the following manner. What does say? It gives 3 formulas. One is vote value of 1 MLA equal to population of that state divided by number of constituencies, number of MLAs who are participating, number of constituencies times 1 by 1000. This is going to give a big number, that's why I am multiplying times 1 by 1000. Okay, vote value of 1 MLA. Quota is total number of valid votes divided by total number of vacancies plus 1. Okay, vote values of 1 MLA, quota, and total vote values of MPs is equal to total vote values of MLAs. So I am clear with these 3 formulas. So I am not going to directly calculate the formula vote value of 1 MP. So I am going to find total vote values of MPs is equal to total vote values of MLAs. Vote value of 1 MP is equal to 549495. मतलब टोटल वोट वैल्यूज ऑफ MLA सिग्मा करेंगे तो ये आएगा 549495 डिवाइडेड बाई 543 प्लस 233. दिस अप्रोक्सीमेट 76. सो व्हेन आई डिवाइड आई गेट 705. सो फ्रॉम दिस आई कैन से दैट वोट वैल्यू ऑफ 1 MLA इन सिक्किम इज 708. मतलब any MP of all over India it is 708, but MLA it is going to differ from state to state. So vote value of 1 MLA is 7, whereas vote value of 1 MP in Sikkim is 7. So there is such a vast difference when an MP comes to vote in the election of the president, whereas when an MLA from Sikkim goes for election of the president. So the count value is high. See, in the quota there is a provision of total number of valid votes. So when an MP of Sikkim goes, he is contributing 706 votes, but whereas an MLA of Sikkim goes, he is just contributing 7 seats. So there is a huge difference here. Okay, and this is over. So, and one thing you need to remember is that it is calculated using only by 1971 census. The reason is that it was fixed to 1971 census to promote incentive to the northern states to adopt population control measures. Okay, and this is term of office of the president. It shall be 5 years. However, he can resign to the vice president, or he shall be impeached by the parliament. He can be impeached by the parliament if he violates constitutional provisions. And eligibility for re-election, yes, he can be elected for multiple number of times. 57. Qualification for election as a president. So what are the qualifications? He must be citizen of India, must be greater than 35, and eligible as an MP of Lok Sabha under Article 84. What are the conditions for MP of Lok Sabha? Article 84, Article 102, and Representation of People Act 1951. He shall not hold any office of profit, and he shall be proposed and seconded by at least 50 electors, and a security fee of 15,000 rupees must be deposited, which shall be forfeited if he can't secure 1/6 of the votes to required to win the elections. Okay, you are clear with qualifications for election as a president, and we all have also seen that for president and governor and vice president, its age requirement is 35, whereas Rajya Sabha and member of legislative council it's 30, and when I check for Lok Sabha and member of legislative assembly it's 25. Okay, and nowadays in current affairs I have seen that I think election commission is recommending to reduce the age limit to 21 for participating in the elections, maybe. So okay, conditions of a president office, this is done. No, this is not done. Conditions for the president office, yeah, he must not be a member of a parliament or state legislature, and he cannot hold any office of profit, and he shall be entitled to an official residence called Rashtrapati Bhavan, and emoluments, allowances and privileges are determined by the parliament, and they cannot be reduced during his term. And this for this reason the parliament has passed President Emoluments and Pensions Act of 1951, and according to this the president shall be entitled to get a salary of 5 lakh rupees per month. Post 2018 this was amended, and he shall receive 50% of his salary as pension. This was said post 2008, and he is immune against any legal liability for official acts and criminal proceedings, and but however civil proceedings may be initiated against him post 2 months notice. And civil proceedings can be initiated against him. Okay, qualifications, conditions, term of office, eligibility for re-election, qualifications, 35, citizen of India, full stop, by any method he can be. This is citizen of India by any method, matlab, okay, full stop. And term of office 5 years, however he can resign. Okay, eligibility for re-election any multiple number of times. Qualification for election as a president, we have seen. Condition for president's office, we have seen this, and oath or affirmation by the president. So this is not mentioned in the third schedule, and there is a direct form but he must also, you also need to remember that it is done in the presence of Chief Justice of India or senior most judge subordinate to him. Okay, so office or affirmation of the president, these two things you must remember from this. Article 60 and 61 says, talks about procedure for impeachment of the president. It says that either house can initiate the proceedings, however it must be signed by at least 1/4 of the total members, and it must be sent to the president in 4 days prior notice, and after 14 days prior notice, and then if it is moved in the house, it must be approved by not less than 2/3 of the total members. Okay, मतलब वोट्स 2/3 of total members से कम नहीं आना चाहिए. A procedure for impeachment of the president. Time of holding election to fill vacancy in the office of president. Time of holding election to fill vacancy in the office of president, and the term of office of person elected to fill casual vacancy. A term of holding election to fill vacancy in the office of president. सॉरी, टाइम ऑफ होल्डिंग इलेक्शन. ओके, इसके बारे में डिटेल में चर्चा करेंगे अब. सी, ओके, दिस इज़ वैकेंसी. द टाइम ऑफ इलेक्शन, टाइमिंग ऑफ इलेक्शन एज पर आर्टिकल 62, मतलब when he must be elected. So this is as per article 62 and article 65, who will act as a president till the time he is elected as a president. So if the vacancy is due to expiration of the term, मतलब 5 years is got over, so the election of the elections must be done before the vacancy itself, and till then who shall act as a president? The same president is going to act, because it is due to expiration of the term and the elections must be conducted before the vacancy, and during that period the same president is going to act as a president. But if the vacancy is due to death, resignation, resignation, or resignation to the vice president, or impeachment under article impeachment under article 61, or article 61, like the parliament may initiate in either house. If the vacancy is due, these 4 things are called casual vacancies. This is a usual vacancy. Okay, whereas 2, 3, 4, 5 are called casual vacancies. Casual: death, resignation to vice president, impeachment, or otherwise matlab election is declared void by Supreme Court. If the election is declared void by the Supreme Court, then the president is disqualified. If the president is disqualified, then the seat becomes vacant. So during casual vacancy, during any of these 4, the election must be conducted within 6 months of the vacancy. Okay, within 6 months of the vacancy. And who is going to act as a president during the time period? That provision is given in article 65. Okay, that is vice president. Okay, here the thing you need to note is that when the president resigns to the vice president has to communicate the resignation to the Speaker of Lok Sabha within 6 months of the vacancy. And when the vice president communicates the resignation to the speaker, and the speaker then initiates the election proceedings. Do you know one thing? The vice president, the maximum period for which vice president can act as a president is only 6 months. But as compared to US, where the vice president acts as a president for the remainder term. For example, see, there is a vacancy in the president's office. Now vice presidents communicate with the speaker, and the speaker is going to conduct elections within 6 months of the vacancy. Until then the vice president is going to act as a president. So the maximum period for which vice president can act as the president is 6 months. But whereas in US there are no elections if there is a vacancy of president. For example, if Trump resigns to vice president JD Vance, then JD Vance is going to become the president of United States for the rest of the remaining 4 years. Say it's for 6 years in America, then it's going to be the rest of the term period. So in India it is just for 6 months, where vice president can act as president. But whereas in US, the vice president can act as president for the remainder term if the office of the president is vacant due to casual vacancy. Casual vacancy implies death, resignation, impeachment, or otherwise election declared void by the Supreme Court. One more thing I wanted you to note is that, see, let us say this is president and he resigned from the office. Then there is a vacancy in the office of president. The vice president is going to fill that seat. But what if vice president also resigns and there is a vacancy in the vice president's office? Then Chief Justice of India is going to fill the vacancy of remainder term for the rest of the remainder term, for the next 6 months. Chief Justice of India is going to become the President of India for the next 6 months. But what if Chief Justice of India, there is a vacancy in the office of Chief Justice of India, then the senior most Supreme Court judge is going to fill the vacancy of President's office. It's President, Vice President, Chief Justice of India, and senior most Supreme Court judge. And this source is mentioned in Article 65. Article 65 Article 65 talks about the filling of vacancy by the Vice President in the President's office, but the entire flow, this is discussed in the President Discharge of Duties Act 1969. So the President Discharge of Duties Act 1969 talks about the entire flow chart, who is going to fill the office of President during casual vacancy. There are two sources, Article 65 and President's Discharge of Duties Act 1969. However, if the Vice President has a vacancy or absent, then no one is going to act as a Vice President. So the Vice President office is going to be vacant. So there are two articles. One is Article 62 and Article 68. Article 62 talks about time of holding election for President in case of vacancy in the office of President. Article 68 talks about time of holding election in case of vacancy in the office of Vice President. So the difference is that it is mentioned here very clearly. See, in case of President election, so the election to fill the vacancy must be held within 6 months, whereas in case of Vice President, no such provision was mentioned. It just says as soon as possible. But usually our election commission conducts election of Vice President within 6 months. And now in the recent news, as Jagdeep Dhankar resigned from the office of Vice President, the election commission immediately issued a notice of conducting fresh elections in the month of September, I guess. That is, it was one thing you need to remember is that as Jagdeep Dhankar resigned, the Vice President, the Deputy Chairman, became the acting chairman of the Rajya Sabha. But that doesn't mean that he had become the Vice President of India. The chairman is just one of the role of Vice President. It is not the main role. Okay, so the Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha cannot act as a Vice President of India. So that you can remember. So, and one more thing, so till the elections are conducted for the President, for the office of President, Vice President shall act as Vice President shall be acting as a President. But in case of a vacancy in the office of Vice President, there is no one who acts as Vice President, and after the fresh elections, a new Vice President is elected in the office of Vice President. That's all. So now we are clear with all the articles. Article 52, President of India, executive power of union shall be vested with the President, who shall be elected directly or with the help of subordinates to him. And this says who is the head of the union executive. However, when we read it with Article 74, it says that a President is just a nominal head of the union executive. And Article 54, there shall be Article 54 talks about who, and Article 55 talks about how the elections are conducted. So 54, President is elected indirectly by an electoral college consisting of MPs of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, 543 MPs and 233 MPs of Rajya Sabha, and MNAs of State Legislative Assembly and 3 union territories, Delhi, Jammu and Kashmir, Puducherry post 70th Constitutional Amendment Act 1992, Jammu and Kashmir post 2019 participated as union territory, and the nominated members and of a parliament and legislature, state legislature do not participate in the election of the President. So there are only 6 legislative councils. They are from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Maharashtra and Karnataka. From the state of so they do not participate in the election of the President. So we have seen the electoral college in the Article 54. Now let us see the manner how. How is he elected? Via proportional representation by single transferable vote, and voting is done via a secret ballot. And it says that for the purpose of securing unity between among the states, and as well as parity between the center states as a whole and the center, the banner of the election of the president shall be conducted in the following manner. Okay, the election of the president shall be conducted in the following manner. So it gives three formulas. Vote value of 1 MLA equal to population of the state divided by the number of constituencies into 1 by 1000, and quota, total number of valid votes of MPs and MLAs divided by number of vacancies plus 1. Okay, for example, it's 51 here. If we take this as 100, and total vote values of MPs equal total vote values of MLA. Now if I am calculating one vote value of 1 MP in Sikkim, I am getting it as 708. But however, when I take a vote value of 1 MLA from Sikkim, it is 7. That means for the election of the president, vote value of 1 MP is very larger than vote contributed by 1 MLA. Okay, now you are clear with what manner of election of the president, and it is fixed to 1971 census to give incentive to the northern states. Okay, term of office of the president is 5 years as per Article 56. However, he can resign to the vice president, or he might be impeached by the parliament. Okay, 56 is over, and 57 eligibility for re-election. He can be eligible for re-election for multiple number of times. Okay, Article 58 qualification for the election as a president. Qualification for the election of as a president, what are the qualifications? He must be a citizen of India, full stop, but by any method, and his age must be greater than how many years? 35 years, and he shall be eligible as a MP of Lok Sabha. MP of Lok Sabha matlab he must satisfy Article 80 conditions under Article 84, Article 102, and Representation of People Act 1951. Okay, and he shall not hold any office of profit, and he must be proposed and seconded by at least 50 electors, and a security deposit of 15,000 shall be forfeited in case of not securing at least 1/6 of the votes to win the elections. Okay, now you are clear with the eligibility. Okay, sorry, you are clear with the qualifications for election as a president. So there are total 6. Okay, there are 6, I would say, and these 6 are given. The condition for the president office. What are the conditions for the president office? We have already discussed. What are they? He cannot hold membership of parliament or state legislature. Okay, and next, he shall not hold any office of profit, and he shall be entitled to Rashtrapati Bhavan, and he shall be given emoluments, allowances, and his emoluments and allowances shall be determined by the parliament. And for this, parliament has already passed an act, President Emoluments and Pensions Act of 1951, and according to which the president is given 5 lakh salary post 2018, and post 2008 it was decided that his pension is going to be 50% of his annual salary, 50% of his salary. Okay, yeah, and one more thing you need to remember is that he is legally immune to any civil proceedings and criminal proceedings. However, after a 2 months notice, civil proceedings can be initiated against president. Okay, now you are clear with the conditions of the president's office. Now let us see oath or affirmation by the president. It is taken in the presence of Chief Justice of India or senior most judge. However, this format is not mentioned in 3rd schedule. It is directly mentioned in Article 60 of the Constitution, not mentioned in 3rd schedule. Okay, and next, Article 61, procedure for the impeachment of the president. A procedure for the impeachment of the president, it can be initiated in either house, and for that not less than 1/4 of the total members. Okay, it must be signed by not less than 24th of the 1/4 of the total members. It shall be signed by this move. The bill for initiation must be signed by not less than 1/4 of the total members, and after it is signed, it must be sent to the president in 14 days prior. A 14 days prior notice must be sent to the president, and after that it must be approved. It must be approved by not less than 2/3 of the total members of the house. So after all the requirements are satisfied, the president will be impeached from the office of the president. Okay, we are clear with this, and next, let us see Article 62. Article 62 talks about time of holding election to fill the vacancy of the office of president, And when I check for Article 68, we have already discussed this. Article 62 and Article 68, it talks about time of holding election to fill the vacancy of vice president, and it also talks about term of office of the person to fill a casual vacancy. It is going to be, term of office is going to be 5 years in both the cases. Okay, and yeah, that's all. And we have also seen that the person who is in case of president, there is an acting president. Who is the acting president? The vice president. In case there is a vacancy in the office of vice president, then Chief Justice of India. Chief Justice of India is going to be the acting president of India. In case there is a vacancy in the office of Chief Justice of India, then senior most judge is going to be the president of India. This provision is till here. This provision is mentioned in Article 65. However, this entire provision is mentioned in President Discharge of Duties Act. President Discharge of Duties Act 1969. President Discharge of Duties Act 1969 talks about the entire chart flow. Okay. We are till, but this is not the same in case of office of vacancy in the office of vice president. There is no one who is going to act as vice president of India. The fresh elections are going to be conducted by the election commission as soon as possible. Usually it is taken 6 months, but there is no such constitutional provision. Constitution does not mention about 6 months. Article 68 doesn't talk about 6 months. However, Article 62 talks about 6 months. Elections to be conducted within 6 months to fill the casual vacancy, but within 6 months. This talks about 6 months. It just says as soon as possible to fill possible vacancy. Okay. And we have also seen what are the types of casual vacancy. It can be death, it can be resignation to vice president, it can be via impeachment, or if he is disqualified, if he or she is disqualified or declared void by the Supreme Court. Okay. Yeah. And we have also seen that in US the vice president becomes the president of India for the rest of the term. Now I would like to discuss certain powers of the president. So what are the powers of president? He or she has executive powers, legislative powers, judicial powers. Executive powers under Article 53. Article 53 talks about executive powers. Similarly, when we discuss legislative, we get to know that Article 79 talks about legislative powers of the president. Okay, and judicial powers, Article 72. Okay, let us see. Okay, what are the administrative powers under the executive powers of president? We can discuss his administrative powers, his diplomatic powers, his military powers, and his emergency powers. So the president has administrative powers. For example, he appoints or he removes the prime minister and council of ministers. He also appoints constitutional bodies, statutory bodies, members of all India services. Okay, so basically constitutional bodies, statutory bodies, members of all India services, and prime minister and council of minister, all of them are appointed by president. So from this I can say that president is definitely having administrative powers. I can also say president is having diplomatic powers. Why? Because all international treaties and bilateral agreements are negotiated in the name of president, and he also receives foreign dignitaries in India. अगर कोई foreign dignitaries in the sense of foreign envoys India के अंदर आते हैं, so he is going to receive them on the behalf of India. So that means I can say that he also holds diplomatic powers. He or she holds diplomatic powers. So through appointments and removal of various functionaries, I can say that president is having administrative powers, and all the international treaties and bilateral agreements are negotiated in the name of president, and he also receives foreign dignitaries in India. So from this I can say that president also has a diplomatic powers. I can also say that president has military powers because president is the supreme commander of the armed forces and authority to declare and conclude war with other countries. So he is the supreme commander. President is the supreme commander of armed forces and authority. So however, For this, the ratification is required by the parliament for using this military power of the president. But yes, president definitely has military powers. So I can say what are the executive powers of president: administrative powers, diplomatic powers, military powers, and president has one important power, that is emergency power. He or she can issue national emergency. National emergency is comes under executive powers. Okay, under article 352, president can issue national emergency. Article 356 and 365, president can issue president rule in the states, and under article 360 he or she can issue financial emergency. So national emergency, financial emergency, and president's rule. Okay, president rule in the states, state emergency. Okay, so the president has emergency powers. So together I can say that yes, the powers of the president includes executive, legislative, and judiciary. Among executive, I can say he definitely has administrative, diplomatic, military, and emergency powers. Now let us discuss what are the legislative powers of president. Okay, under article 85, he has the power to summon, prorogue, or dissolve the house. Under article 85, so that comes under legislative power. And article 86, president address, that comes under legislative power. Article 80, we have already seen. So it says that president can nominate 12 MPs to Rajya Sabha. So from this I can also say that he definitely has legislative power. So article 85, power to summon, prorogue, dissolve. Article 86, president address. Article 80, nominate 12 MPs to Rajya Sabha. Article 108, joint sitting to resolve deadlock over a bill. Article 108. And article 123, this is a very important legislative power, which is ordinance making power. And article 111, yes, this is the veto power of the president, assent to bill. So yes, pocket veto, suspensive veto, absolute veto. So since we are here, let us see what is the difference between pocket, suspensive, and absolute veto. Okay, pocket veto of the president is nothing but keeping the bill pending for an infinite period. That's all. Absolute veto is the president rejecting the bill completely. President withholds a bill, matlab president rejects the bill. That is absolute veto. And the thing you need to note is that this absolute veto can be used only against private member bills and state bills sent for president assent. They cannot be used against constitutional amendment bills. Okay, so one thing is that so now you know that president definitely has veto powers under article 111, which talks about 3 veto powers: pocket veto, absolute veto, and suspensive veto. Pocket veto is keeping the bill pending for infinite period, and absolute veto is withholding the bill, that means rejecting the bill. And suspensive veto is president returning the bill to the parliament. So absolute veto can be only used against private member bills and state bills sent for president assent by the governor. Okay, whereas suspensive veto, they can be issued only against ordinary bills and financial bills and not against money bills. So suspensive veto मतलब reconsideration के लिए president cannot send the money bills for reconsideration. Okay, this you need to remember. Anyways, so you are clear. Once again, what are the legislative powers of the president? Article 85, Article 86, Article 80, Article 85, power to summon, prorogue, and dissolve. Article 86, president's address. And Article 80, nominate 12 MPs to Rajya Sabha. Article 108, joint sitting to resolve the deadlock of a bill. Joint sitting of what? Joint sitting of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Article 123, ordinance making power. And Article 111, veto power of the president. Okay, so legislative powers, executive powers, and judicial powers. What is judicial powers? Pardoning powers: pardon, reprieve, respite, remit, commute. Pardon matlab completely पार्डन करना, ओके, माफ कंप्लीटली सेंटेंस को हटा देना, दैट इज पार्डनिंग पावर. एंड रिप्राइव, इट इज़ टेम्पररी स्टे, मतलब बाद में हो सकता है पनिशमेंट, लेकिन अभी के लिए टेम्पररी में टेम्पररी स्टे पे रखा है. सो रिप्राइव मतलब टेम्पररी स्टे फॉर temporary stay, that's all. Respite matlab changing the nature of the punishment under special circumstances, for example pregnancy of women. So under special circumstances respite is can be used by the president. And remission, reducing the amount of sentence without changing the nature. You are remissioning, that's all. Reducing the amount of sentence without changing the nature. You are just reducing the amount of sentence, that's all. For example, he is given imprisonment up to 10 years. I am not changing the nature of the president as nature of the punishment imprisonment. I am just going to reduce the amount from 10 years to 5 years using my remission power. Okay, so reducing the amount of sentence without changing the nature is called remission. Okay, what is commutation? It is different from remission. It says changing the nature of punishment under no special circumstance. मतलब अगर लाइफ इम्प्रिजनमेंट पहले हुआ तो अभी मैं उसको 10 साल में चेंज करूँगी. सो दैट इज़ चेंजिंग द नेचर ऑफ पनिशमेंट फ्रॉम लाइफ इम्प्रिजनमेंट टू just imprisonment for 10 years. So this is commutation, changing the nature of punishment under no special circumstances. Respite is also changing the nature of punishment, changing the nature of punishment. Commutation is also changing the nature of punishment, but respite includes special circumstances, whereas commutation includes no special circumstances. That is the difference. Both change the nature of the nature of the punishment. And a remission, it only changes the amount of sentence without changing the nature of the punishment. And reprieve is the punishment is still there, but a temporary stay or halt was put on it. And pardoning matlab completely pardoning. So in case of governor, the pardoning power is given under Article 161. Let us look into the executive power of states later, but now let us finish vice president, and then council of ministers, and then let's go to attorney general of India, and then let's go into the governor, council of ministers, and advocate general of India. So now we need to look into vice president. Before going into vice president, I would like to discuss one thing. So what I would like to discuss is that now you have already studied 52, 53, you have already studied 53, 54, which talk about election of the president. One talks about electoral college, and one 54 talks about how manner of election of the president. Do you know how the votes are counted and where the provisions of counting of votes were given? So the details for counting of votes is given. The provision for the counting of votes is given under President and Vice President Election Rules of 1974. President and Vice President Election Rules 1974 talks about counting of votes. It says that electors must use ballot papers. MPs and MLAs, they are going to vote, then they must use ballot papers, and they must mark their preferences in that ballot paper, and after that he or she must vote via secret ballot. Okay, and the value of that vote is mentioned in article what we have discussed in article 55. It is mentioned in article 55. Okay, so and it is done by a proportional representation by single transferable vote. How does this PR by STV work? So say the number of votes are A, B, C, D candidates. Let's say it's 45, 25, 20 and 10, and so no one had reached the quota. What is quota? Quota is 51 now, but no one has reached quota among A, B, C, D. A is 45, B is 25, and so for me, for gaining 51, we add the minimum number of votes. For example, say D had only 10 votes, so we are going to take the votes of D to A, to the second preferred, see, let's say a candidate, let's say MLA preferred among ABCD candidates, candidates who are participating, who are contesting for the election. Say an MLA, this is a ballot paper of MLA, and the first preference is given to D and the second preference is given to A. So his second preference will be carried to carried as first preference, and then the votes are again recounted, and after the second round of counting, the results are declared as soon as the quota of 51 is reached, and the candidate finally left would be the winner. So what if all the candidates who are contesting for the election receive 25, 25, 25, 25? What if there is equality, and whom are you going to act in the second preference? For this there is no this has never happened, and there is no provision mentioned in anywhere in the rules of president and vice president election rules of 1974. Okay. And what is the difference between proportional representation and first past the post system? So first, for proportional representative, we have seen that there is a quota formula we have just learned. Number of valid votes divided by number of vacancies plus 1. Okay, so by calculating this, we know that the person must receive at least 51% of majority. Proportional representation is single transferable. But whereas if I take FTPT system, in FTPT, if suppose if the person A gets just 35, he need not fulfill the quota. So there is no quota in FTPT. So he need not get 51. As soon as he is getting the maximum, if he gets the maximum, then he is going to be the winner of the election. So that's all. There is no quota requirement in first past the post system, and this is seen in election of MPs, MLAs. We usually follow the first past the post system. We see the majority of the votes, the maximum votes to win the election, whereas in president, vice president, we see a proportional representation. Okay, one more thing is that as per 84th Constitutional Amendment Act 2001, till 2026, the vote value shall be calculated using 1971. तो 1971 सेंसस को फिक्स कब तक किया? 2026 तक किया गया. विच अमेंडमेंट के अंडर 84th Constitutional Amendment Act 2001. See, Article 82 talks about delimitation. Okay, it says that upon the completion of each census, the allocation of seats in the House of the People, allocation of the seats in the Lok Sabha, and the division of states into territorial constituencies shall be readjusted. So it says that see, when is census conducted? After every 10 years, census must be conducted. So after every census, the allocation of seats to the Lok Sabha shall be readjusted, and the division of each state into territorial constituencies shall also be readjusted. But what happened? The Parliament enacts Delimitation Act after every census and appoints a high power body called Delimitation Commission. Okay. So I think you are clear. 1951, there is 1952 Delimitation Commission Act, and every 10 years there is going to be a Delimitation Act. Census after census there is going to be Delimitation Commission Act, and it continued till 1971. However, in 1971 there came a 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976, which allowed delimitation of 1971 census until 2000. However, the seats were frozen and the boundaries of the constituencies were also fixed. But however, when the 2001 finally arrived, there is a new Constitutional Amendment Act, 84th Constitutional Amendment Act 2001, which extended delimitation till 2026. However, the 87th Constitutional Amendment Act 2003 said that it allowed delimitation based on 2001 census without altering the seat numbers. मतलब this 87th Constitutional Amendment Act of 2003, it just allowed to alter the shape of constituencies in each state as per 2001 census. मतलब population of state 1971 सेंसस के बेस्ड ही होगी, लेकिन जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसीज का शेप है, मतलब अब बड़ा कर सकते हो या छोटा कर सकते हो, दिस कैन बी एडजस्टेड बेस्ड अपॉन 2001 सेंसस. So this was given by 87th Constitutional Amendment Act 2003. So there are, after 1971, there are 3 Constitutional Amendment Acts. One is 42nd CAA 1976, which said that it will be till 2001, and when 2001 came, there was 84th Constitutional Amendment Act 2001, 84th CAA 2001, and which had extended till 2026, and however by 2003 it said that 2001 census will be taken only for altering the seats of constituencies of each state, and not for altering the number of seats. So for number of seats, still 1971 census is only being used. So the Vice President of India, it is similar to the President of India, I guess. So Article 63 says that there should be Vice President of India, and 64 says that Vice President of India is the ex officio chairman of the Rajya Sabha, Council of States. Okay. And next, Article 65 says that it is somewhat similar to the President, if you notice, because in President there is Article 53 which said that the executive power of Union shall be vested in the hands of President, and it also talks about power of the Vice President. That means he is an ex officio chairman of the Council of State. It is the same. Okay, Article 63, Article 64, and Article 65, the Vice President to act as President. So yeah, 65 says that Vice President can act as Vice President to discharge his function in case of any casual vacancies. Okay, we have also discussed this. And now Article 66, election of the Vice President. Okay, this is important. Who elects Vice President? You know, the Electoral College of President, elected MPs of what does the Electoral College of President consist of? 543 MPs and 233 MLAs, and elected MLAs from 28 states and 3 union territories, right? But now my question is, what does the Electoral College of Vice President consist of? Now you know Jagdeep Dhankar has recently resigned. There are going to be fresh elections in the month of September. So what does it contain? Okay, so Electoral College of Vice President consists of both elected and nominated MPs. Both elected and nominated MPs. मतलब see, Vice President is the chairman of Rajya Sabha. Therefore, nominated MPs must also be part of Electoral College. So therefore, both elected and nominated MPs participate in the, all MPs basically, all MPs of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, they participate in the election of the Vice President. And next thing you need to note is that MLAs, they do not participate. MLAs do not participate in the election of Vice President. They only participate in the election of President. Okay, and this election is done by a same manner as how the President's election is conducted. That means it is via proportional representation by single transferable vote through secret ballot. And this 65, the manner is as the same manner as President. This provision is also given by Article 65 itself, election of the President, and it also says that the Vice President cannot hold membership in a parliament or state legislature. Of course, he cannot hold the vice president of India. He is not a member of Rajya Sabha. He is a chairman of Rajya Sabha because he is the vice president of India. So this is one of the condition of his office also. And yeah, you know what, this election of vice president, it talks about, it has three clauses. First clause is electoral college, we have discussed, and second is the manner of the president, the manner of the election. Actually, first clause itself talks about the manner of the election of vice president, and the next second clause talks about he or she membership. He cannot be member of parliament or state legislature. And the third clause talks about the qualifications. Matlab, qualifications are also discussed in the third clause. So article 66 talks not just talks about the electoral college, but it also talks about qualifications required to become the vice president of India. So it says that he must be citizen of India, he must not be less, his age must not be less than 35 years, and he must be qualified for election as a member of Rajya Sabha, and he must be eligible, he must have all the qualifications to become a member of Rajya Sabha, and he doesn't hold any office of profit. So if all these requirements are satisfied, then he is eligible to contest for the election of vice president. So election of vice president is discussed. Now let us see term of office of vice president. Term of office of vice president is again 5 years, is just 5 years, and but anyways, he can resign to the president, or he can be removed by the resolution of Rajya Sabha, by absolute majority, and then agreed by Lok Sabha. Okay, absolute majority and then agreed by Lok Sabha. Okay, and but this resolution cannot be moved unless there is at least a 14 days notice, unless at least 14 days notice has been given before moving such resolution. Okay, so till then if there is no notice, then a president cannot be impeached by Rajya Sabha, and vice president can hold office beyond 5 years until successor takes charge. Okay, until there is a successor, his term might be greater than 5 years. But whereas in case of president, the elections are conducted before the 5 years. But I think in case of vice president, there is no such mandatory rule, because it just says as soon as possible. So it doesn't talk about the time period within which election should be conducted in case of vice president. So I can say that the elections for the vice president the president can hold an office, a person can hold office of vice president for more than 5 years if elections are delayed. Okay, and one more thing I would like to ask you, what are the emoluments of vice president? It is given by the same act that we have read before, President and Vice President Allowances and Emoluments Act of which year? Of 1951. President Emoluments and Pensions Act of 1951 also talks about emoluments of the Vice President, and there is no such fixed emolument for Vice President. Instead, he is given a salary. A salary is drawn as he or she is in the capacity of chairman of Rajya Sabha. Okay, salary is drawn as he or she is in his capacity of Rajya Sabha, and when he or she is acting as president, all entitlements as chairman of Rajya Sabha ceases, and instead the salaries and allowances of the president are drawn. Okay, so for example, if vice president became the president of India, so he is not going to receive emoluments as vice president of India, but instead he will receive the entitlements, salaries and allowances as president of India. Okay, that is clear. So we have finished the vice president. We have already discussed the time of holding election in case of vacancy of vice president. Oh, one thing we have missed out, oath or affirmation. Oh yeah, here Article 69. Oath or affirmation. It is also not mentioned in third schedule. It is also not mentioned in third schedule. Article 69 directly uh, says the form in which the affirmation to be taken place, and it is done in the presence of president. Okay, in the presence of president. This is important because oath or affirmation of president is taken in the presence of Chief Justice of India or senior-most Supreme Court judge. Senior-most Supreme Court judge. Whereas oath or affirmation of vice president is taken in the presence of president. Okay, it is taken in the presence of president or a person appointed on his behalf. Person appointed on his behalf. Okay, so this is important key. Oath or affirmation of president is taken in the presence of Chief Justice of India or senior most judge, whereas oath or affirmation of vice president of India is taken in the presence of president or any person appointed by him on his behalf. And both of the formats they are not mentioned in third schedule, they are directly mentioned in the articles, Article 60 and Article 69. Now let us discuss some more. Discharge of president's function in other contingencies. So the parliament may make such provision as it thinks fit for the discharge of the functions of the president in case of any contingencies that are not provided in this constitution. Okay, this is clear. And Article 71 it talks about matters relating to or conducted with the election of the president or the vice president. Okay, all doubts and disputes arising out of all election disputes, for example, all election disputes in connection with the president in the election of all election disputes of president and vice president shall be adjudicated by the Supreme Court. Okay, election disputes shall be adjudicated by the Supreme Court. This is first clause, 71 clause 1. And the decision of Supreme Court shall be final. This is 71 clause 1. 72 clause 2. If the election is declared void by the Supreme Court, the acts done by him before the date of such decision shall not be invalidated. For example, if election is void, that doesn't mean that decisions, the acts, that doesn't mean that act done by him before the date of disqualification is not invalidated. Okay, acts are not invalidated. And Parliament may by law regulate any matter relating to or connected with the election of president or vice president. Okay, Parliament by law can regulate. This is clause 3. And clause 4 says that election of president or vice president shall not be called in question on grounds of existence of any vacancy of college. Matlab, for example, there is a vacancy in electoral college. That doesn't mean that I will stop conducting the election of president or vice president. So that is not the case. The elections will be conducted despite, even if there is any vacancy in the electoral college. Okay, so Article 71 clause 1 says that in case of election disputes, the decision taken by the Supreme Court shall be final. And 71 clause 2 says that if an election is declared void by the Supreme Court, if such election is declared void by the Supreme Court, the acts done by him or her shall not be invalidated. Okay, and the Parliament by law can pass a law for regulation for the election of the president. Okay. Fourth says that the election of president or vice president shall not be called in question in case of vacancy of electoral college. Okay, so 71 is clear. And article 72 we have already discussed it. This talks about judicial powers of president, power to pardon, suspend, remit, commute, etc. So article 73 talks about extent of executive power of union. So let us see what article 73 talks about. Okay, so we are clear. So now under executive we have seen president and vice president. Now let us see council of minister. It is very simple. Article 74 says that there shall be a council of minister headed by the prime minister to aid and advise the president. So from this article I got to know that there is president is just a nominal head, and the real head is the prime minister of India. So real head, the prime minister is real head, or he is also called de facto head, or head in practice. He is also called head in practice. Fine. Whereas president is called theoretical head, nominal head, titular head, etc. What does article 75 say? Other provisions as to ministers. The prime minister shall be appointed by the president, and other ministers shall be appointed by the president as advised by the prime minister. Okay, so PM is appointed by the president, and the other ministers are appointed by the president after the recommendation from prime minister. Okay, this is article 75 clause 1. Actually article 75 clause 1 has sub clauses. One is a sub 1A and other is 1B. 1A says that the total number of ministers including the prime minister shall not exceed 15% of total strength of Lok Sabha. So there is article 74 which says council of minister to aid and advise president, and article 75 says other provisions as to ministers. इसके अंदर ये चीज़ है, other provisions. So here we can, it has two sub clauses, 1A and 1B. It says that total number of ministers including the prime minister shall not exceed 15% of total strength of Lok Sabha. So maximum strength of council of minister is 15% of total strength of Lok Sabha. Can I calculate this? It is going to be 543 times 0.15. What is the value? It is 81.45. So the maximum seats can be only 81. So maximum strength of council of ministers is just 81 as per article 75 clause 1A. It says that the maximum strength of council of ministers is 15% of total strength of Lok Sabha, which is calculated to 81. Now what is the next clause? 1B. Any member of parliament disqualified due to defection cannot be appointed as minister. Okay, अगर एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ लग जाती है तो he cannot be member of parliament, he cannot be MP. ओ सॉरी, अच्छा समझ में आया. देखो, देयर इज़ एन MP, इसके ऊपर एंटी डिफेक्शन लग गया, अब ये मिनिस्टर नहीं बन सकता. ही कैन नॉट बिकम द मिनिस्टर अंडर काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स. दिस इज़ व्हाट दिस आर्टिकल सेज. मिनिस्टर. ओके. Any member of parliament disqualified due to defection cannot be appointed as a minister. So these two clauses, sub clauses, they are added by 91st Constitutional Amendment Act of 2003. 91st Constitutional Amendment Act of 2003. So the prime minister and council of ministers both hold office for the prime minister. One thing you need to remember, the prime minister, council of ministers, governor, all of them, they hold office for the pleasure of president, okay. So whenever president wants, he or she can remove them. So if they are holding the office under the pressure of president, that means they do not have any term. So there is no term mentioned in our constitution. There is no term mentioned for the period of for the period of prime minister or council of ministers or any minister in constitution. What I meant is that since the prime minister, council of minister, governor, they hold office for the pleasure of the president. They do not have a fixed term. So I cannot say the term period of prime minister is 5 years. No, I cannot say. Why? See, if they lose confidence in Lok Sabha, then their term is not going to be 5 years. So it's not a fixed term. So they hold office for the pleasure of president. So 75, Article 75 has clauses from 1 to 6. We have currently discussed Article 1, or we have currently discussed 75 clause 1. क्लॉज 75 क्लॉज 1 के अंदर 2 सब क्लॉजेस है, 1A and 1B. 1B talks about the strength of council of ministers and 1B talks about MP. If 1B it says that an MP cannot become a minister if he or she has anti-defection law. मतलब he or she is disqualified under anti-defection law. Okay, now let us discuss the other clauses. So the other clauses, 75 clause 2. What does 75 clause 2 say? It says that ministers shall hold office during the pleasure of president. Okay, so 1 हो गया. 2, it says that ministers, council of ministers, shall hold office for the pleasure of president. And it's 3. Okay, 75 clause 3 says that the council of ministers shall be collectively responsible to Lok Sabha. Okay, and what does the 75 clause 4 say? It says that the president shall administer oath of office and secrecy to the ministers. The president shall administer oath of office and secrecy. Good. This is given by 75 clause 4. And a minister who is not a MP for 6 consecutive months shall, at the expiration of the period, cease to be minister. For example, let us take S. Jaishankar. He became minister without becoming a MP. So within 6 months he became the MP of Rajya Sabha, and that is why he was able to hold the office of Ministry of External Affairs. So that is how it is. A minister who is not an MP of either house for 6 consecutive months shall, at the expiration of that period, cease to be a minister. Consecutive months. And there is a 75 clause 6 which says that salaries and allowances of ministers shall be decided by the parliament until parliament so determines, shall be specified in the second schedule. I think parliament did not pass any law for that. So the parliament has already passed salaries and allowances of Ministers Act of 1952. So according to this, the salaries and allowances of council of ministers is determined. So there are only two clauses in the Council of Ministers, but the Article 75 has six sub clauses, and Article 75 clause 1 has two sub clauses. One talks about strength of Council of Ministers, which is 81, and the other talks about anti-defection law. The minister who is disqualified as an MP under anti-defection law cannot become a member of a Council of Ministers. Cannot hold a ministry. And clause 2 says that Council of Ministers shall hold office under the pleasure of President, and 75 clause 3 says that Council of Ministers is collectively responsible to Lok Sabha, and 74 clause 4 says that the President shall administer office of profit and secrecy. Office of profit and secrecy. Oath of office and secrecy. President shall administer the oath of office and secrecy of ministers, and a minister of a minister, an MP can become a minister. A minister can hold a ministry for 6 consecutive months without being a member of MP. But however, post 6 consecutive months, he or she is expired to hold the office of minister. However, he or she must become a member of a parliament within 6 consecutive months. Fine. Salaries and allowances. The salaries and allowances of a minister is determined by second schedule if the parliament has not passed any law. However, if parliament has passed a law, then they are determined according to it, and parliament had passed a law, that is salaries or allowances of ministers act of 1952. ओके, हमने सोचा काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर छोटा है, लेकिन इसमें 74 तो सबको पता है, 75 के अंदर 6 क्लॉजेस है. ये सारे क्लॉजेस हमने डिस्कस कर लिया. So now let us look into Attorney General of India. I think we are clear, right? We are clear with President of India, executive power of Union, election of the President, manner of election of President, term of office of President, eligibility for re-election multiple times, qualification for election as President, and qualification for election as President, 35 citizen of India, MP of Lok Sabha, proposed and seconded by 50 electors, and 50,000 rupees is forfeited if 1/6 of the votes, if he or she do not secure at least 1/6 of the votes to win the election. Must not hold office of profit. ये सब qualifications के अंदर आती है. And conditions for the president office, cannot become a member of parliament or state legislature, and they cannot hold office of profit, and entitled Rashtrapati Bhavan. However, emoluments and allowances are determined with parliament. Okay, and his term period cannot be reduced by the parliament under any law. Okay, so conditions of president's office हो गया. And oath of affirmation by the president in the presence of chief justice of Supreme Court General, and it's not mentioned in third schedule. And next is 61, procedure for the impeachment of the president. Like it must be signed by not less than 1/4 of the total members, and it must be sent 14 days notice prior. 14 days prior notice must be given to the president, and after that, even if it's passed, it must be by absolute majority. That means 2/3 of members, total members. So then the president will be impeached. So 62 and 68, they talk about time of holding election for the president and vice president, and VOVC within 6 months, and VOVC as soon as possible. That's all. And in case of casual vacancy मतलब death, resignation, और क्या, casual vacancy मतलब death, resignation, impeachment, other मतलब disqualified by Supreme Court. तो अगर इन 4 में से ये 4 कैजुअल वैकेंसी के अंदर आती है, इन 4 में जो भी होता है, तो लाइक वाइस प्रेसिडेंट इज़ गोइंग टू बी द president of India for the rest of the period, well, for 6 months period. However, in case of vacancy in the office of vice president, there is no one who is going to act as vice president. Okay, that is clear. And now let us see the vice president of India. Article 63, Article 64. Vice president to be the ex officio chairman of Council of States, that is Rajya Sabha. And Article 65, the vice president must act as president in case of casual vacancies in the office. Yes, Article 65. But do you remember, if the office of vice president is also vacant, then Chief Justice of India is going to act as a president of India. So where is Chief Justice of India, the office of Chief Justice of India is vacant, then senior most judge is going to act. So this entire flow chart is given in the President Discharge of Duties Act of 1961 है शायद. Yeah, sorry, it's not 1961, it's 1969. So under the President Discharge of Duties Act of 1969, the entire flow chart is given. Okay, the president acts as vice president in case of discharge of functions during casual vacancies in the office of president. So election of the vice president, the electoral college consists of both elected and nominated, मतलब all MPs. Okay, but MLAs are not included, that's all. And the election is conducted as in the manner of president. Okay, and the one main qualification is that he must not be a member of parliament or state legislature, and he must have there are certain qualifications, like his age must be greater than 35, he must be citizen of India, and must have qualifications as a MP of Rajya Sabha, etc. So all these things are mentioned in the qualifications in the election of the vice president. So term of office of vice president is 5 years. However, he or she can resign to the president, or he or she can resign to the president. Okay, or there is also a possibility that your vice president is impeached by the Rajya Sabha. But this impeachment must be done by absolute majority and then approved by Lok Sabha. Then so usually there is a time period of 5 years. However, it can be less than 5 years. One thing to notice is that it can also be greater than 5 years if the elections of the vice president are delayed. Okay, he or she might hold office for more than 5 years. So Article 68 says that time of holding election to fill the vacancy is as soon as possible. Okay, and 69, it says that oath or office of vice president of India shall be administered in the presence of a president, and it also gives a format. That means the format is not mentioned in the third schedule. And next, discharge of duties, discharge of president functions in other contingencies. So for this, parliament can pass any law. And 71 says that matters relating to or connected with the election of the president or vice president, that means election disputes are adjudicated by the Supreme Court and its decision is final. And if the election is invalidated, the acts done by him or her before such invalidation shall not be invalidated. Okay, parliament by law can pass any law for regulation of the election of a president. And the election of the president shall not be called in question just due to a simple reason that there is a vacancy in the electoral college of vice president. Okay, so it is the same in case of president also. So now we are clear with the matters relating to the election of the president or vice president. For both of them it's the same thing. And discharge of president functions in other contingencies, parliament by law. And Article 72, power of president to grant pardons, etc. This is judicial powers of the president. Article 72. ओके, एंड अगर इसके ऊपर हम 89 ऐड करेंगे तो जुडिशियल पावर्स ऑफ गवर्नर्स आ जाएगा. लीव इट. एंड एक्सटेंट ऑफ एग्जीक्यूटिव पावर ऑफ द यूनियन. ओके, नाउ यू आर क्लियर विद द प्रेसिडेंट एंड वाइस प्रेसिडेंट. वी हैव रिवाइज्ड इट. एंड लेट अस लुक इनटू काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स. In the Council of Ministers, Article 24, to aid and advise the President. However, there are other provisions as to ministers. First is Article 1, subclause 1A, subclause 1B. Subclause 1A talks about the maximum strength of Council of Ministers, that is 15% of total strength of Lok Sabha, which is approximately 81. And 1B, it says that if an MP is disqualified under anti-defection law, he or she cannot become a minister of a Council of Ministers. So it is they both 1A and 1B are added by 91st Constitutional Amendment Act of 2003. 91st Constitutional Amendment Act of 2003, and it also says that Council of Ministers holds office for the pleasure of a president, and Council of Ministers is collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. The oath of office and secrecy of ministers is done in the presence of president, and it also says that a minister who is not an MP for 6 consecutive months shall cease to be a minister with the expiration of such term. Okay, and salaries and allowances are determined by the Parliament. Until Parliament do not pass any law, it was determined by second schedule. However, Parliament has already passed a Salaries and Allowances of Ministers Act of 1952. Okay. So conduct of government business. Article 77 says that all the executive action of union is done in the name of president, under the name of president. Okay, this is one. And it also says that orders and other instruments made and executed in the name of the president in such manner is as may be specified in the rules to be made by president. Leave it. And further, okay, it just says that it has subclauses 1 and 2, and subclause 2 says that such order shall not be called in question. Shall not be called in question. Shall not be called in question on the ground that it is not an order or instrument made or executed by the president. Okay, and the president shall make rules for more convenient transaction of business of Government of India. Transaction of business of Government of India, and allocation among ministers of said business. Okay, so there are 3 clauses, subclauses. Okay, 3 clauses under Article 77. So all the executive action of the union shall be taken in the name of president, and such action shall not be called in question on the ground that it is not an order or instrument executed by the president. And the third says that president shall make rules for more convenient transaction of business of Government of India. So that's all, Article 77. And Article 78, it shall be the duty of Prime Minister to communicate to the President all decisions of Council of Ministers. So it says that Article 78 says that it shall be the duty of Prime Minister to communicate all the decisions of Council of Ministers to the governor, to the president. Yeah, that's all. That's all. To furnish such information. That's all. So this says that the Prime Minister is the mediating channel between the Council of Ministers and the President of India. However, there is a subclause that if the President so requires to submit for the consideration of Council of Ministers on any matter, a decision has not been taken by Minister or not. मतलब प्रेसिडेंट बोल सकता है कि कोई और मिनिस्टर का रिकमेंडेशन कंसिडर नहीं किया गया है, इसमें एक बार उसका रिकमेंडेशन भी लेना मैंडेटरी है, तो वो भी प्राइम मिनिस्टर लेगा. That is something like that. 78 clause 3, if the president so requires to submit the consideration of Council of Minister any matter on which a decision has been taken by the minister but not been considered by council. Yeah, that's all. Okay, so we have finished union executive. In the next session we can look into state executive. It is similar to union executive. Okay, thank you. Yeah.